What if you could walk a mile in someone else's shoes for a day? Who would you choose? I remember being asked this question at the start of last year and thinking, well, anyone with a stride longer than mine sure would have a better time walking from one end of uni to the other. I also remember thinking that, well, there's just too many places and stories and people to choose from. A part of me really wanted to know what it'd be like as a princess of Genovia, whereas another part of me wanted to know all the colours you'd see with the eyes of a great artist. Somehow, I still found myself thinking about what it'd be like for someone in a completely different situation than we are in. I found myself imagining the story of someone who was displaced by conflict and without a home. I'm guessing what tends to come to mind for all of you are the stories that have made you feel sympathetic towards someone, the struggles they faced and the resilience they wielded, and left you wondering about their worldview. With a story so different from our own, we simply can't help but be curious. I am here today talking to you not as an expert, but as a student. Around just a year and a half ago, I was sitting right where you all are, attending my first lecture and wondering how on earth I was going to memorise all 206 bones in the human body. Study aside, I knew that I wanted to contribute to something during my time at university, but I wasn't exactly sure what nor how to go about it. Despite that, I just couldn't get the idea of doing something for people displaced by conflict out of my head. I first heard of the humanitarian crisis of displacement when I was 12. Back then, in 2012, there were 45.2 million people displaced in the world. That number has since risen to 70.8 million, which is 35 times the population of Perth. Half of all displaced people are children. Although I couldn't quite comprehend the scale of the crisis back then, I still knew that I wanted to do something, anything, to help people affected by wars, conflict, and trauma. But being 12, there wasn't a whole lot I could do. So, fast forward to last year, during orientation week at university, I saw a sign and a chance to join a club called Refugees. Now, I hadn't yet memorised the exact definition of a refugee, nor did I really know what I could even contribute to this club. But the idea of meeting and joining a group of students who cared just like I did, students who worked together to make a difference in the lives of refugees here and abroad, meant that I was thrilled to sign up and I jumped at the chance. Now, just over a year later, I am the president of Students Refugees. Not fully knowing how I got here, but definitely knowing that it's where I want to be. From folding origami hearts with hopeful messages for refugees abroad, to running an ongoing food drive and even speaking at humanitarian demonstrations, I found it fulfilling to know that my voice was heard and what my team and I contributed actually made a difference. So I'd like to tell you all about a single project we ran that changed the entire perspective of mine on student advocacy. It was called the City I Belong To project and aimed to connect a group of 55 recently arrived youth from Syria and Iraq to community through a series of interactive workshops. One of the workshops we ran was a campus tour, and that was aimed to develop leadership, teamwork, and creative problem-solving skills. About 5 minutes into meeting my tour group, there was one child who immediately asked me, "Hey, where are the music rooms?" Because he really wanted to play the drums in the big kids' school. Now, the music rooms weren't technically on our tour map, so this question then persisted for every 5 minutes for the rest of the tour. And this campus is huge. After we finished the mini games at each destination, you know what? I finally gave in. With minutes to spare, we power walked to the music rooms and knocked on a random door with music and hoped that it would be free. And lo and behold, a drumming teacher opened up. Now, I didn't plan this, so it beats me how we had such great timing and not a single snare in our plans. Afterwards, walking back to meet the others, you could clearly see a change in this child. Not only being elated to find the music rooms, finally, but also beaming confidence for the rest of the day. Looking back, the single most unexpected outcome of this project was that 100% of the youth we worked with ended up reporting an increased ambition to come to university one day, to study their passions and learn alongside their peers. There was even one boy who promised to run the project himself after he finished his studies, because he wanted to make other previously displaced youth feel the way that he did, empowered. This is an example of what you would call the ripple effect, where the initial actions of one individual end up affecting other people beyond what was intended and thereby increasing their impact several times over. I didn't think that a couple of fun workshops would have such an impact on these youth. But this project proved to me that the effort that my team and I contributed actually made a difference. We had a chance to prove that we cared, and we did. And today, that's still one of the best volunteering experiences I've ever had. While I'm volunteering, a question I often hear is that, well, I'm just one student. What difference does it make? After all, in between the grind of studying, working, and catching up on day-to-day living, it can be hard to find the time or energy to worry about the world beyond our horizons. I even know some people who avoid watching the news, not because it's boring, but because all that seems to be reported nowadays is bad news. Conflicts in other countries, human rights violations, and global warming. It's no wonder we feel so upset and helpless, because if we don't even know where to begin in order to make a difference, then what on earth can we do? It's all just bad news, and there's no point making a difference or changing anything apart from the channel, right? Or so we think. I once heard a story of a boy who was throwing starfish into the ocean at the beach. People would walk by and ask him, well, what on earth are you doing? To which he would reply, well, the tide is going out. I'm throwing the starfish back into their homes. Now, given that there are thousands of starfish on this beach, people just laughed because there couldn't be a difference made, right? So the boy just picked up another starfish and threw it far, saying, look, I made a difference to that one, and to that one. The moral of the story is that no matter how small we think our actions may be, they inevitably impact the life of another. Just like the ripple effect, except this time, there's actual ripples. You can make that impact positive. You know what they say, if you can't find a single thing that you like about this world, then you may as well create it. So maybe the aim isn't necessarily to save the world, but it could also be about brightening a corner of it. For me, the impact that was created as a result of the City I Belong To project was immeasurable. You could see it on the beaming faces of smiles after soccer games, the vivid colours of paintings that were created, and the increased confidence that social connectivity fostered. That was all real, tangible, and impactful. Despite that, a question I still hear when I'm volunteering is that, well, how can you keep on committing to giving back when life is busy? Life is so busy between studying, working, and marginally sleeping. Honestly, I'd like to thank the one that has kept me going through it all, even when it's been the most tough. Coffee. But apart from that, I don't actually know. What I do know is that compassion fatigue is real, and that I'm guilty of pouring so much love and compassion into what's around me, into everything except myself. In the world we currently live in, I believe we have a long way to go before we can make this place fairer for everyone, and realizing that can be so overwhelming. But I also believe that the key to lessening compassion fatigue is compassion to the self. Logically speaking, how can you keep on giving to other people when you can't even give time and care to yourself? Whatever that looks like for you, I think it's vital for self-preservation. You do know that we charge our phones every night. Why not ourselves too? So what if you asked me now if you could walk a mile in someone else's shoes for a day? Truth be told, I don't think we can. Quite frankly, I think it's impossible to experience the lives, connections, and memories of another person when all we know is our own experience. Despite that, what we can do is to care. We can share the stories of those that have moved us and made us want to act, to make a difference. You can just look around you and look at how diverse we all are. I believe that each and every one of us has something different to give to other people, to make this world a better place than when we first entered it. With that, I think there are 3 things to keep in mind as we each go about our individual journeys into creating positive social impact. 1, find yourself. Get to know what aspects of this world scare you, confront you, but also stirs up something in you that knows that the best thing you can truly do is to care. For me, I found that advocating for people of refugee and asylum seeker background is a medium to further express just how much I care, but also my belief in a world where someday we can all belong. Pursue that feeling because that's exactly what fuels purpose. 2, lose yourself. Be confronted with the reality that what you know is this much, what you don't know is this much, and what you don't know that you don't know is this much. So why not say yes to opportunities to contribute to something bigger than yourself, because that is an opportunity to learn more about the world. As you go on, I encourage you to remember that the impact you individually contribute is real, tangible, and impactful, no matter how small you think it may be. And 3, find yourself in others. And that could be through volunteering or joining a local organisation that fights for the same cause as the one in your heart. By sharing stories, talking to other people who care, and working in a team, I found that this helps to reaffirm why we started our journeys in the first place and just how far we've come since then. I hope you can appreciate that growth. Appreciate yourself and strive, always strive for more, to keep on turning your compassion into action. Thank you.